What's up, dudes? Max here. Been wanting to make this video for a while as there's been a multitude of leaks and information about it over the past few months. I've never really had the opportunity to talk about it, but based on what's been happening over the past couple of weeks with the official reveals, how things are being revealed, and what we know so far, I think it's a pretty good chance for us to talk about the roster of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I know a lot of you guys really don't want to hear about it, but the game is very close to being a reality, just over a month and a half away from release, and the roster is easily one of the most, I'd say, intriguing aspects of a fighting game, and is easily one of the biggest issues of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I feel many of the problems of Marvel Infinite could be addressed if the roster was awesome. Chun-Li's face could look really weird. Dante's face could look like a crazy coke addict. You could have the most bizarre, awkward art style like the game does have, but if the roster was absolutely awesome, then a lot of things would be forgivable. But it's not. So let's talk about that. The biggest information bits we've been given over the past few weeks are especially considering the fact that many Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 characters are composing the roster of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Even recently we had Firebrand as well as Dormammu showing up on a comic book cover, technically announcing their inclusion with the game, and then just recently we got a Ghost Rider cover showing the fact that he's going to be in the game as well. I'm not a huge fan of these comic book cover reveals. I think it's actually kind of awesome that Marvel vs. Capcom is getting variant covers. But holy crap, dude, similar to the game itself, there's a couple of really bad Apple covers that sort of ruin it for the rest of them, while many of the covers are actually kinda awesome. However, I do feel that this sort of takes away a big aspect of the roster reveals, because one of the biggest things we want to see with these characters, especially if they're Marvel vs. Capcom 3 characters, is how different they're going to be in Marvel Infinite. And some characters like Frank West with his new moves, and other characters like Nemesis, which is mostly a very similar character to what he is in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I just want to see new stuff. New stuff is what gets me the most excited in this game. Watching Ryu do a brand new cinematic level 3 is probably one of the most exciting things in the game, because so much of it is similar to Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But we all know that's the case. We all know how similar Marvel Infinite is to Marvel 3 in terms of its roster and characters. But I really want to take a look at things directly to understand what's going on with the roster, where it's going, and how true some of the leaks were, because some of them are turning out to be extremely true. With that being said, I got a little visual aid and we can get a good idea about what the hell is going on. So here it is, the last roster we've seen playable in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. This is technically the one that was shown off at the latest San Diego Comic-Con footage, and we're probably going to see updated in something like Gamescom, which is coming up in about a couple weeks or so, with the characters that have been announced. And this is probably what the game is going to look like with the characters we have not seen yet, including the ones that we already know, like Jeddah, who is obviously in the game, and now he's a part of the base roster. So here we go. We have what I think is the final roster for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite in terms of the base characters. That's 5 rows of 6, making the core roster about 30 characters, and based off all the leak information we've had so far, everything from the zip leak has come true with Ghost Rider's announcement happening just earlier today. So there you have it. In my opinion, this is the launch roster for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but what's going on with those 6 character slots down there? As we all know, one of the hardest things to swallow of this game was the fact that in its first trailer, we were shown DLC characters were going to be available for the game for a special version that costs $90. 6 additional DLC characters that are going to be brand new characters to the Marvel vs. Capcom series, and we've already seen a couple of them. Of course, Sigma was the very first one that was in the very first trailer, and then a bit down the line at, I believe it was E3, we saw Black Panther touted as the second DLC character, and that still stands true. However, there's still 4 other DLC characters that are going to be down the line, and that's rough to swallow because all of these DLC characters so far appear to be the brand new characters. No joke, so much of this roster is returning characters that is what is making so many people upset with this game. Even if they are different looking, have better graphics, the art style of the game really doesn't complement that or alter things enough where you start to really feel like they're brand new characters. Right now, the only brand new characters are Gamora, Ultron, Mega Man X, Thanos, Captain Marvel, and Jeddah. I know a lot of you guys wouldn't consider Thanos to be a new character, but in my opinion, if a character has never had like a 3D model made of them ever before, then they're a 2D character, mostly being reworked for a 3D game. That to me is a new character. That's some expensive shit and takes a long time. Marvel vs. Capcom as a series has touted the fact that it's just bringing a whole bunch of roster members in that are going to compose the game. That's a big reason why Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is the way it is, and even other fighting games like Tekken have done that for so long that it's ridiculous. The biggest thing about it is the selection of those characters. Albeit the missing X-Men characters is one of the biggest things on the Marvel side, the Capcom side, which is the side that I am personally looking the most forward to, is obviously lacking in many regards. Sure, I got Strider and X. I'm really happy with those two characters, but the selections of some others just don't make any sense. How the hell does Spencer and Firebrand make it in over Beautiful Joe and Amaterasu? Like what? What? How the heck does Nemesis make it in over Wesker as the Resident Evil bad guy? Obviously, we can make other suggestions like Leon over Chris, but I'm just specifically talking about the characters that were in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 compared to the ones that they took over to this game. There's a lot of really weird choices in there that I don't exactly agree with, and it would have made people so much happier if we got a lot more Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 characters that are more of the mainstay ones that people really wanted. In my opinion, the best way to fix the base roster is to take a lot of the characters that were in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and just make them a character pack down the line, like the ones that already had moves, Beautiful Joe, Amaterasu, Wesker, and the list goes on. Just take those characters and do something with them. Don't make them DLC, make them free or unlockables or something like that. They're obviously going to take a hit because that does cost money to bring characters from older games, retexture them, reanimate some parts. Most of the work is done on them, and it really would create a lot of goodwill. And that's what the game needs right now. It needs some goodwill to try to get people back on their side and reintroduce some of the characters that were more popular in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 since they're missing from this game. But we haven't even talked about the DLC yet, so let's take a look. The obvious inclusions and the one we already know about, Sigma and Black Panther will be composing 2 of the slots, but who else is on there? Based on the zip leak, there were 3 other very important characters that were included in the core of the game that someone somehow got a hold of in terms of their character files. Those 3 characters were a Monster Hunter, like a generic Monster Hunter style character, as well as Venom and the Winter Soldier. So with that being said, and based off literally everything else coming true based on the zip leak, we're looking at a roster that is composed of characters and DLC characters that looks like this. So there we have it, pretty much the majority and what we know that is going to happen for the Marvel vs. Capcom roster. Having characters like Venom, the Monster Hunter, and seeing the fact that they are going to be new in some way does make me kind of happy, but it does not fix the fact that the roster is obviously lacking with a lot of stuff that make people really happy about the Marvel vs. Capcom games on the Capcom side and the Marvel side, but we still got one missing character. That question mark is not a random select box. We do not know the final character that is going to be on this roster. Between the zip list, between any other people that have leaked information that has eventually come true, and some people that did leak information didn't come true at all, so a lot of their stories and character leaks are invalid. The zip leak is the one that has been following this list to a T, even up to the point we have now. So we still got one character on the Capcom side that we don't know. And I would just like to throw out a couple character suggestions, ones that would make me very happy. Albeit DLC, it's got a monkey's paw situation where you have to pay extra for this one. But if it was a character like Asura from Asura's Wrath, if it was a Power Stone character, if it was Samanosuke from Onimusha, I would be extremely happy. All of those characters have not ever been in a Marvel vs. Capcom game before, and these are touted as new characters to the series. Those quote-unquote marks are there specifically because I think that Venom is a DLC character. Many have been defending the fact that Venom, as well as the Monster Hunter, are going to be a part of the core roster, and I don't think that's the case. I really think what we're looking at right here, this 30-character roster, is the core roster to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Although I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see the fact that characters like Venom, as well as the Monster Hunter, are a part of the core roster because it at least seems like the Monster Hunter character is going to be pretty important. Although, we did also see that Monster Hunter, as well as Black Panther, their universes are being collided together, and Black Panther's gonna be a DLC character. How Ultron and Sigma are a huge part of the game, but Sigma is a DLC character. This is the reasoning I have to think that Monster Hunter and Venom are most likely going to be DLC members. That's not a great thing. I would love for them to be a part of the main roster, and I think that makes so much more sense if they were just there and we didn't have to wait for them, if not have to pay extra for them because they are a part of the main story. But either way, it does make me happy that Venom and the Monster Hunter are going to be there in some way or some regard. I do think those will be very awesome characters in 3D and rendered out in this way, but it still doesn't change the monkey paw fact of it all. So there you have it. That's what I got right now for the roster of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite based off all the leak lists and information, and how everything has been coming to as of all the reveals that have happened up into right now. Let me know what characters you guys would stick on the main roster. Let me know if you actually think that Venom as well as the Monster Hunter are going to be a part of the core roster, because if that does happen, that actually makes the roster a lot better in my opinion. It doesn't fix everything by any means, but it definitely helps. I still personally feel many of the issues of Marvel Infinite, like I said when this video started, could be alleviated if the roster was awesome. But it obviously contains way too many Marvel vs. Capcom 3 characters. But that selection from Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is probably the weirdest part of it. The characters they ended up choosing aren't really the ones that I feel a lot of people wanted. Either way, dudes, thank you a ton for watching. I got more videos showing up for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite coming very soon, especially ones talking about some of the weirder gameplay elements that I was seeing during the footage that I was reviewing at San Diego Comic-Con. And hopefully, within the next couple weeks or so, with the fact that Gamescom is going to be happening, we're going to get some more character reveals. We're finally going to see what the heck Jedha looks like. We're going to see what Ghost Rider looks like, Dormammu, and Firebrand. And for the most part, I think I'm most excited to see more Jedha because it's the thing that makes me the most happy about this game. The new characters doing brand new things and stuff we never saw before in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. As always, guys, thank you a ton for watching. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.